Let's go over to Capitol Hill, where CBS News intelligence reporter Olivia Gazis is with California Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell.
Context surrounding this.
Good evening, Lana and Elaine. Yes, I'm here with Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell, who also sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, I'd like to start with Iowa because, as you just heard, we've got more results coming in from the caucuses. You, of course, are a former presidential candidate yourself. Is it surprising to you that the vice president, the former frontrunner, is walking away with no delegates?
Well, first, congrats to Mayor Pete. And I was born in Iowa. I spent a lot of time there during my campaign. And, we want to make sure we get this right for the future. But, we're going to move on to New Hampshire, South Carolina. It's going to be a long process. I wouldn't write anyone off, who's in the top 5 right now. But, I think we're looking forward to seeing other states starting to participate as we get ahead.
Tomorrow is expected to mark the end of the impeachment inquiry that was led in large part by the House Intelligence Committee for months in the fall. Is there an appetite within the committee to keep that investigation going, or do things end with the likely acquittal of the president tomorrow?
We're not going to stop checking him because we learned through the impeachment process that when you check Donald Trump, you stop corruption. You not only hold him accountable and you show future presidents what the standard of conduct is. We learned that once the investigation really got underway, Ukraine got the aid. I believe had we not looked into this, Ukraine would still not have the aid today, and Joe Biden would be under some bogus investigation. So who knows what other corrupt acts he's doing right now that we should be looking at. But we're going to pursue his taxes. We're going to make sure we understand what other foreign powers he's trying to work with, as John Bolton seems to be hinting at and saying he has knowledge of. So we're not, going away as far as doing our job to check the president.
Are you personally in favor of subpoenaing John Bolton to testify publicly before your committee?
The Senate should do it before they vote. If they're not going to do that, Chairman Schiff's position, and I support it, is that we shouldn't rule that out, especially if he has knowledge of new other corrupt schemes that the president's running with other leaders. And I'll just say this, think of this as like a 10-story condominium building. We were in one room of that building looking at what happened with Ukraine. It would be foolish to think that that's the only room where you turn on the lights and you see all the rats running around. He has shady dealings with Turkey, with Russia, with I think Saudi Arabia. So we're going to keep looking, and I imagine there will be more, for us to act on.
I have to ask, though, because the House Intelligence Committee in particular has been investigating elements of the president's conduct since 2017. We were just talking about that. I've been there for most of it. Has that affected the political nature of these investigations? Has that affected the committee's relationship with the intelligence community that it oversees, given that the intelligence community tries to stay apolitical?
No, and I was at the CIA headquarters today, thanking the men and women who work there and getting briefed. And we put aside, I think, the politics when it comes to national security. We passed, as you know, a bipartisan intelligence authorization act earlier this year, or late last year, not too long ago. So we'll continue to work on behalf of the American people, and the president should also be able to do that in the year that remains in his presidency.
The chairman has, of course, asked the leadership of the intelligence community to testify publicly before the committee for what's known as the Worldwide Threats hearing. Has there been an agreement reached with the IC leadership, or is that still in process? And if there hasn't been an agreement reached, why not?
Yeah. We're still seeking that. That's something that we have under Democratic and Republican presidents, under Democratic and Republican, House majorities. The news reporting that they are not going to come over because they're worried about offending or upsetting the president is, intolerable. We're not going to go for that. We need the American people to know what the threats are and then justify why we're investing in protecting people from those threats.
But do you think that the friction, let's call it, is a reflection of where the intelligence community is, where the intelligence committee is, or is it something else?
I think it's a reflection of a corrupt president who has, struck the fear of God, put the fear of God in many of these intelligence leaders who don't want to offend him because that's just, one tweet storm that could take us off the rails on, some important national security policy. We can't work that way, though, and they need to answer to Congress, and we're going to keep pressing for that.
Tonight, the president is expected to strike a tone of relentless optimism. Of course, last year he called for an end to what he called ridiculous partisan investigations. If he does, and I grant you that it's a big if, extend an olive branch to the Democrats. Would Democrats be receptive to something like that?
We are receptive to working on infrastructure. He walked away from that deal with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer. We're receptive to doing anything to support our men and women in uniform and our law enforcement officers across America. We're receptive to reducing the cost of prescription drugs. We worked with him just a few months ago on a U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement in a bipartisan way. I think we made it better by working with him. And so there's other issues that we can still work with him on.
What would get you to stand up on your feet and applaud tonight? What could he say to coax that kind of reaction?
Honor the troops, thank our men and women in law enforcement, say you're going to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, kids aren't going to have to hide under desks anymore for mass shooter drills. Do something about those issues.
I want to go back to impeachment for a second because the chairman, Adam Schiff, who was, of course, the impeachment manager, the lead impeachment manager for this entire process, said in his closing arguments that the chance that the president would try to cheat in the next election if he were not removed from office was, quote, 100%. That's a serious charge. Is he calling into question a potential outcome in November?
No, and I think the best thing we can do is overwhelm the ballot box so there is no question with our participation. But a leopard doesn't change its spots. He asked Russia to interfere and hack Hillary's emails in 2016. He asked the Ukrainians to investigate Joe Biden. And again, we'd be foolish to believe that these are the only instances where he's acting shady. I just think that the more we look, the more we'll find.
The chairman has also called out two intelligence agencies, in particular the NSA and the CIA, for what he says is withholding material that would be relevant and would be properly obtained by the committee. Are you continuing to pursue those materials? What are those conversations look
Yes,
like?
we are. And we don't believe that you should classify something and mark it as top secret just to protect someone politically. And so we in Congress have a responsibility to conduct oversight, and they should not go along with anything that is just meant to protect the president. Again, I'm not going to draw that conclusion just yet. I think Chairman Schiff wants to negotiate with them to get these materials, and we'll keep doing that.
And he also mentioned on the floor during the impeachment proceedings that there is some other intelligence of unknown classification that would be relevant to the inquiry that senators should have access to. He said that there should be a mechanism for them to have access to those materials. What is the status of those materials, and is there being something negotiated?
Well, we certainly know from Jennifer Williams, who testified, who was the aide to Vice President Pence, that there is information relating to Vice President Pence's phone call with President Zelensky that the White House has marked as classified. We don't believe that anything in that testimony that she gave in a classified way is classified. We think the White House is doing that to protect the administration, and that's wrong.
Back to Iowa. The president has seized on what has happened and characterized that, or said that is illustrative of the Democrats' disorganization, their unpreparedness for 2020. What do you make of that criticism?
This is a one-week story. We're going to, a week from now, be talking about, the New Hampshire primary and then Nevada and South Carolina Super Tuesday. So, we want to get it right in Iowa. That's more important than anything. But this is going to be a long campaign, and this is really going to be about, the president's fitness for office.
It may be a one-week story, but as you said, Nevada is coming up, and there is the expectation that some kind of app, not this app, is going to be used in Iowa. So how confident are you that we won't see a repeat of what happened here?
Yeah, getting it right is the most important thing. I think the Iowans should be forthcoming about what happened and not be embarrassed about that, because that's going to protect us in upcoming elections.
Thank you so much, Congressman, for your time tonight. Elaine, Lana, back to you.
All right, Olivia Gazis with Congressman Eric Swalwell. Thank you very much.